The July real estate numbers for Waterloo Region are in. I'm going to tell you all about it starting right now. So the July numbers came in. Our board put them out a few days ago. And our July market, like most of the summer markets that I've been in over the past decade, was slow. We're sitting roughly on par with last July for sales volume, so that's unchanged. But if you look at that compared to the 10-year average, we're down, I think, 12 or 13% on sales volume. I think we had somewhere around 650 sales, somewhere in that ballpark. The big news of what we're seeing in the market, however, is price reductions and a huge uptick in inventory. So for prices, I'm going to start off with detached first. Detached came in just under $860,000. That's around 41 grand below where we were in June, and we're actually down 7% on the year. Now, those are some big numbers, but there's been a lot of variation over the past couple of years. I've seen detached trading in a range, I'm going to say 80, 90 grand band between the mid eights and the mid nines ever since 2022 when prices corrected. Going back to 2023, from June to July, we saw a 70,000 drop in that month. So this 43,000 drop in detached, it's not actually that atypical. Anyways, some value out there definitely if you're looking at buying, no question about that. Moving on to semis. Semis is kind of a weird, small little segment. Very few sales. I think we had 55 sales, and they're sitting firm right around 645 grand. Almost unchanged month over month, and I think we were down 3% on the year. Next, I want to talk to you about townhouse prices. Townhouses are sitting right now 603 grand across the region, but there's one thing I wanted to mention about townhouses. Unlike the semis are almost entirely freehold. When you're talking about your townhouse market, it's roughly 50% condo, 50% freehold. And there's a big gap in prices between those two types. For condos, you're looking at, for a townhouse, roughly $530,000. If it's freehold, it's actually just under 700 grand. So we're talking a huge difference in prices. Now, mentioning those townhouse prices, we are down 4% on the year, and I think we were down 15 grand or something like that on the month. So not huge numbers. The big decliner we saw this year was apartment style condos. They're sitting right now at $415,000. That's down 4% on the month. And if you look at it year over year basis, we're down a whopping 18%. Now, the funny thing is that only happened really recently, since April, in fact. April, we saw a big drop after April, May, June, July. And I think we came down from, if I'm not mistaken, $470,000 in April to where we are right now. I think what's going on with that is, especially in Kitchener-Waterloo, there's a huge amount of university and college students that are foreign students, and the government's curtailed that, along with curtailing the immigration numbers quite substantially. And I think what's happened is, the investor community, the rental community, they're kind of reluctant to be in that space, and we're seeing prices drop as a result. Now, talking about sales volumes as well, I'd mentioned we were, slow, but not crazily slow, kind of mid-pack. We were down, as I said, 12% compared to that 10-year average. And what's really come on board is the amount of listings, and I think that's putting pressure on prices as well. We have 2,200 and something properties for sale last month in comparison to 600 sales, or 650 sales. That 2,200 properties for sale, that's 73% above the 10-year average. So you've got more inventory, more selection, and buyers are simply, they've got some choice now. And I think that's putting a little bit of downward pressure on prices. That's what we're seeing, especially so, of course, in the apartment style condo segment that I mentioned. Looking at those inventory levels, apartment style condos, it's 6 months. So we're solidly a buyer's market. Townhouses and detached now is finally into neutral status as well. Past couple of videos I've done and blog updates too, we were sitting just under like 2.8 months worth of inventory for detached. Well, now we've crossed that barrier. We're actually 3 months plus for detached. And for townhouses, we're sitting at 4 months worth of inventory. The only one actually that we've got left, semis, that's still sitting in seller category, but it's such a small segment, it's a very much an outlier. I think we had 105 listings and 55 sales. So we were like 1.9 months worth of inventory for semis. So again, that's a seller's market. Now talking about what's going on with this market. Yes, indeed, the price reductions we're seeing are related to supply and demand, no question about that. We've got very low interest rates compared to where we were a couple of years ago. So there's other factors that are putting pressure on prices. With rates being lower, you'd expect prices to go up, but in fact, we're not seeing that. We're seeing flat and in fact, declining prices in a lot of segments. Right now, with our economy, we've got some real headwinds. You know, the craziness down south is feeding into our economy. We can't say it's not. Bank of Canada, they did their, I think it was July 30th, they did an update. They haven't touched rates whatsoever. I've got another publication they put out, I put it on my blog post. They actually have multiple forecasts and predictions, scenario A, B, C, or D, about what's going to happen with the economy. And their exact words are, it's a very cloudy picture. And that's the truth. We don't know what Trump is going to do from one day to the next. And that's definitely, I think, playing into the housing market a little bit. Going forward into the fall market, generally speaking, July and August, for the busier part of the year, this is the most dead part of the summer season. It's busy in the spring, it's busy in the fall, really dead in the wintertime, and then kind of dead July and August. So I would expect, after Labor Day, we are going to see prices, and prices will maybe stabilize. I don't think we're going to see prices take off. If they're where they're at now, I don't see them going down further. Could be wrong though, as I said, this market, it's been a very funny market. I do see though, volumes picking up and very likely prices at least staying flat. That's my prediction. Anyways, that's all the data I've got for you. Thanks so much for watching and have yourself a fantastic day.